Number one, I agree. Yeah? You can use, very simple. My answer is they use psychology. That's why I said just now, one of the requirements of an effective lecturer is to know psychology. When you know psychology, you know about how people learn, how people behave, and especially the aspect of motivation. What motivates them to learn or what demotivates them to learn. Okay, so the issue I think now, yeah, you have everything in the classroom, you have the LCD, you have good teachers, everything, right? But what is lacking, I think, is the motivation. So how do you motivate your students? Okay, what I did normally through my own experience, beginning of the semester, you give them the course information, right? You have the SLT, everything. Yeah, they know what they're supposed to do. Okay, so what I did is basically, quote unquote, to force them to read. Okay, what we do now, now, how many lecturers at the end of the class, generally when I observe young lecturers, right? At the end of the class, say, okay, class, thank you, that's all, goodbye, see you next lesson. Yeah? Okay, how many of them, before the end of the class, one ask questions? They ask question. When you ask question, basically what you're doing is to review, right? When you ask question, basically you're asking question which is, consists of the main ideas. That's number one. Yeah, that is the common strategy used, meaning you ask questions. But I go beyond one more, yeah? When we teach the bachelor student, we call them the follow-up activity. Follow-up activity meaning, at the end of the class, you tell the students, okay, today we have learned about, assuming science, about pollution, for example. Okay, what I want you to do after the class is for you to look at the internet, surf the net, interview people, get brochures, get more information, okay, on this topic, and next lesson we're going to discuss this again. Yeah, and tell them, and Prof. Dato' Usha mentioned just now, motivation is also extrinsic to pass test, to pass exam, right? So tell them, okay, this activity will be in test one. Yeah, what you're going to do now will be asked in test one. So when you mention test one, what do you see in the eyes? It's going to be tested, so I have to look for more information. So ini what we call force motivation lah, yeah. You motivate them, but you force them, yeah. So you do this first. And number two, most important is, some students. Let's imagine, students in marketing. This is the first time they come from their hometown, come to Utah, for example. In a situation like this, you talk about marketing. Yeah, it's very strange to them, right? So what we need to do now, they need some what we call the schemata or the background knowledge. So what I do normally is, before the end of every lesson, if you have to give handouts, yes, give them handouts, one, yeah? But handouts is not for that particular lesson. The handout is for the next lesson. So what is the purpose? Tell them, okay, this handout is not for you to carry, but is for you to read and prepare for the next lesson. So in that case, they are prepared before they come to class. So you can see the connection, the continuity, the relationship between what they learn now and the next. Yeah? Okay, why don't I stop there first?
Thank you very much. Professor, you want first, Abu Bakar?
I think the approach, the first problem relates to the issue of problem-based learning. There are areas, there are subjects which we have to teach and tell our students the facts and figures. There's no way. You can't run away from you can't run away from the fact that students must know what H2O means. H2O means water or whatever. Yeah. If they don't remember that, then there's a problem there. But when at a higher level, at the master's and the graduate level, a lot of work has got to be done along the approach of problem-based learning. Problem-based learning simply challenges, but with the condition that the lecturer himself or herself should prepare the kind of things that should happen. The next, what next, and the first. Well, because we are now under the system of semester system, we have weeks according to modules, and which means that we can lay out the list of items, areas to be covered, which means that assignments are being made to students early at the beginning of the course. Then you'll find that it is so interesting because that's where they will come and present, and that's where you challenge them on all those things that are being. This is knowledge generating other than consuming. We have been producing lots of people throughout the last 6 decades who are people who are actually knowledge consumers rather than knowledge producers, has been said. And this is the challenge that we have got to face, and we have got to move from that. At the master's level, I cannot tolerate teaching. I don't teach, for that matter, in that sense. But I give them the kind of schemes, and then they would be challenged, and they will come out with lots of information, because information is already it's a matter of organization, it's a matter of emphasis, it's a matter of directing them to ensure that they are on the right way of thinking, analytically, conceptually, at the level of synthesis, at what level are they talking, level of hypothesis, which means that this is where the smartness of the lecturers must be at the highest level possible. That's why the reason why universities insist nothing less than a PhD to teach at a higher level. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to touch upon that I'm trying to talk about the Asian cultural learning style and also the teacher-centered, student-centered approach. I don't think there's anything wrong with teacher-centered and student-centered depending upon the content. Some things can be taught using some methods better. That is why I am proposing that teachers become well prepared with the eclectic approach. Eclectic approach, we can pick up the rabbit from the head anytime we feel that this is going to work. Don't be so dogmatic that we want to say, I want to be a communicative language teacher. But that can lead to failure. But if I can use different methods and approaches, to me these two words are different, yeah? Like audio-visual method, what's wrong with that? I know people are saying, oh, you're treating human beings like animals. But no, if I want to teach you certain things, I may have to believe that you are an animal. I mean, what's wrong with that? Not that I'm calling him an animal, I'm using animal trends to teach humans. If you are successful, what's wrong? Or using the structural approach. Malaysia, we have gone through all this, I think like Dato and I, we are all from the structural approach. They give us a substitution table, repeat after me, repeat after me. Maybe that's why we are able to sit in front and talk English. And then the communicative approach, and then of course, there are other approaches which I call the designer approaches, such as Suggestopedia. They have one or two good things. Actually, there are 18 methods and approaches for language teaching, which can be adapted for other subjects. But some may give more, some may give less. Nonetheless, these methods and approach will guide us. And we can stand in front of our classroom, well, this doesn't work because my students don't look too bright. Can I just shift a bit? Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our three panelists have shared with us how to motivate our students, how to structure teaching and learning, how to get them interested, as well as how to raise their thinking skill. For example, Professor Hussain into problem solving that is inquiry based, into analysis as well as synthesis, and coming out with generation of knowledge. And I believe by engaging with talks like that, we have come up with few alternatives how to deal with our students, right? May I ask basic questions here? Just now, 5 questions have been raised. Have the questions been answered? The last questions.
Your question answered, yeah? Okay, very true, yeah? I'm in the Faculty of Education. Yeah, semester 7, our students will have to go to the schools to do their teaching practicum for 8 weeks. Okay, the irony is this, yeah? Lecturers are supposed to supervise them teaching in the schools. The irony is, there are some teachers, some of the lecturers, they have not even taught in the schools. So how can they observe these teachers? Yeah? So therefore, the moral story is this. Yeah, you raised a good point. Similarly, lecturer in banking studies, for example, yeah, UiTM. The particular student got a scholarship to do his bachelor's, master's in banking, for example, yeah, came back and teach banking. He or she never worked in the bank. Yeah, so how you're teaching only theory from textbooks, and the worst part, the textbooks are from the West. Now you have to apply it to CIMB, Bank Rakyat, Bank Islam, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so what UiTM is doing now, yeah, we have 2 types of measure. Yeah. Number 1, what we call industry exposure. It's a requirement for new lecturers, yeah, to be sent to the industry, the respective industry. It can be banking. We are going to send teachers to school, our lecturer from faculty to send them to school for 1 semester compulsory. Compulsory for new lecturers to have what we call industrial exposure. Yeah. So this is to make sure that, hey, if you want to work in industry, you better have some experience in industry. So we have done that. Yeah. And number 2, we have what we call site visits. So we encourage lecturers to do site visit or reports. Yeah. Visit the banks. In our case, visit the schools. We recover our students to have what we call the ROS. Yeah. For them to be familiar with the school system. Yeah, before they go for practicum, we ask them to go 1 week to the school to study the school, study the environment, talk to the lecturers, teachers, etc. Now we are doing the same to the lecturers, but obviously during their school break, during the semester break, so that the students they know that our lecturers are also going to the schools. So I think to answer your question, nothing beats industry or industrial exposure. So I'm glad now we make it compulsory. So maybe it's good for you. Lecturer may make noise, but it is for their own good in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we come to the second session of our forum between the audience and the panelists. The first sessions we end between the importance of professional learning through industrial link, through site visit. How about other questions that is relevant to your teaching and learning, including grievances or ways to enhance professionalism? Thank you.
Provocative here, because I partly agree with what has been said so far, but I would say you can throw away all your pedagogical skills. One, I'm saying that it's very limited for the simple reason I learned most of my things from teachers with a moral vision. Teachers who live by example. They have the most impact in my life. When I went to university, I was under a supervisor. I won't mention her name, but she has won lots of awards, and she studied with the greatest Marxist philosophers in the world, and she's a philosopher in her own right. But what happened is, let me just state very quickly. What she did was, I asked her, how many days do you work? 7 days a week. And then she said, well, why don't you come to my party? I'm having a party this weekend. So I went to the party. This was in my first semester as a PhD student. I was expecting music. I was expecting, lots of people having talks. There were lots of people, yes, but there was not a single note in music. Everybody was talking within an intellectual culture. And I was thinking, what am I have landed myself into? But I tell you what, I miss those parties now. I really do. And when she worked, she really worked. And she held the audience spellbound 2 hours with a short break in between, not a single note on the table. I learned that. Why? Because she lived by her example. Her family was killed by the Hungarian Marxist regime, and I asked her once at a party. I said, Agnes, what's the meaning of life? In all seriousness, I asked her. She shot back, and she said, fun. Just one word. For a person whose parents have been killed, and yet she can say life is about having fun. So what I'm saying is basically, pedagogical skills can only take you up to a certain limit. It is the personality, that moral and that passion of the person that can really teach. Sorry, I'm going to end there very shortly. Okay, just one comment. I think my students have got very limited attention span because they are brought up on television. And that's one of the reasons why they don't read books, I believe. I just like comments from the floor and from the speakers on those things. Thanks.
I think we